While I'm keeping an eye on every player, Wiser controls every room.
Rob, you said you wanted to start the year with a bang, and you got that with the performance against Bristol.
Yeah, obviously very pleasing. I think, again, it's one of those weird ones. It was performance more than result, really, because there was a real sense, I think, amongst the supporters, amongst the players watching the game, the training week as well, leading into it, that we found a bit of mojo, we found a bit of alignment, a bit of extra energy, a bit of extra drive, and that really came through in the performance. And actually, when you review the performance, it's one of those games where you go, how did we only get 3 tries? Which is fantastic. And to think that the try we gave up was an interception, and probably a pretty soft one at the time. We got stood still and we were a little bit edgy. That's a real highlight. Yes, Bristol probably had more attacking moments than people give them credit for. They did break through a couple of times, and they were within striking distance, and we won turnovers, and we kind of broke down attacks. But on the whole, it felt like a much more secure type of home performance from us, and one that certainly could have broken up into being a higher score and potentially a bonus point win.
It leads you nicely into Harlequins, which, speaking to the boys, speaking to you, it's still a result from last season that hurts that final performance.
Well, it hurts, and it's people talk to me about this, and it's not been any disrespect to the Harlequins. I think they deserve to win the game. I've watched the game, more times than I want to, really, and I can't turn around and say they didn't deserve to win the game, because they thoroughly did. I think the frustration is that we probably put ourselves in a position where in the weeks running into that game, where we didn't accelerate into that game. We weren't driving into that game. We had a funny performance away at Northampton where we went a lot of points down at half time, and then we turned that around, and then we had a funny performance the last game of the season against Sale where it almost looked like we were doing everything we could just to manage. We manage ourselves into the semi-final, and that meant we played quite. Although we won the game, we played in a funny way. We played on the back foot for a lot of the game, and it ended up with card scenarios for Sam Skinner and Dave Ewers, and that kind of obviously started to hurt us numbers wise and squad wise. We were then better in the semi-final, a lot better against say in the semi at home, but then we kind of almost drew breath again. And it was kind of scary in a way, watching some of the things we did in the final. About we got behind, and we'd go really well and get back in the lead, and we'd kind of ease off a bit and then go back in the lead. And we never really put our foot down. We never really went for the jugular against Harlequins, and that's the bit that bothers me. The loss doesn't bother me. We take wins and losses at the club all the time, and I'm the first person to say the best thing about rugby is you tend to win the games you deserve to win. And that's why Harlequins won that final, because the way they played in the final was thoroughly deserving of winning the game. And we didn't play in a way that deserved to win the game. And that's the bit that irks me, and I think that's the bit that irks the boys. It's not actually the loss, it's probably the performance. We've lost in other big games, important games, but it's not been as irritating in a way. And so I think that's part of it. Having said that, Harlequins are just as good, just as good as form as they were back then. They look very comfortable with the way they're playing. I kind of really enjoy watching them play in a way where I enjoy watching them, but I also don't, because I think there's a real threat there from them. But that's just because they're enjoying what they're doing. They're aligned as a team, and we've got to break that down. We've got to have that in a bigger quantity to them if we want to win the game. Otherwise, the game will go a similar way to the final.
Over the years, it has been a happy hunting ground for you going to the Stoop. And what sort of messages will you be saying to the guys ahead of the game of more of the same what you've done there in the past to get into them?
No, it's not necessarily about what history shows. They're a different team. They're just a different team. They're a different team to the team we've played there before, where things have just suddenly broken up in the game and crumbled a little bit. They're just not that kind of side. So we won't focus on them too much. We've kind of got to get beyond that a little bit, and we've got to really focus on what we want to achieve and what we want to do, because that's what challenges teams. That's what challenges their game plan, makes it harder for them to play against us. We talked a lot about that in the run into Bristol. We focused on certain areas of how Bristol play. Of course we do. You have to do that every week. But the massive focus was on ourselves and where we wanted to play, how we wanted to play, what our ambitions were to be in the game. And we're going to focus very much on that again this week.
You had the good news last week of Stuart Hogg signing on. He then backed that up with a man of the match performance. Jack Noel was back to what we call world-class talent. Are you seeing these guys starting to inch their game up week by week now?
Yeah, I mean, for all the supporters who are kind of a little concerned about the squad, the reality is we're going to have a very strong squad next season. I already know that from players who are either under contract or players who have committed for next season now. So I think I know there's a little bit of questioning about where we're going. The squad, is the squad going backwards? Is the squad going forwards? I think the squad will keep going forwards, maybe in slightly different ways and in different avenues for a number of years. My job is to try and keep it going forward all the time. And so I'm pretty comfortable where we are. We've done a fair bit of forward planning for scenarios like this. It's not that I don't ever have an expectation of every player staying here for their full career. That's not a reality. So we always have things in place to follow it through. I think people will start to see those in the next 12 to 18 months. So that bit's great, but when guys commit to the club, it's fantastic. Stuart's obviously been the first guy I wanted to come out publicly and talk about it, but I'm sure in the next 2-3 weeks we'll have a lot more of that kind of a commitment being made publicly from the players, and I'll probably better put a squad out within the next month of guys who are going to be here. So those couple of things aren't my bigger concern. My bigger concern is where this squad who we've got here are going this season, and one thing I do know is that Johnny and Sam will buy into it fully. I think they've already shown that in the performances. They've shown how they're training, how they're talking around the club. They're good guys who've got a lot of good friends here, and I haven't got any doubts about their commitment to what's going to happen. So we'll put in a full-blooded performance at Harlequins. The guys are talking and saying the right things. That doesn't mean it's a foregone conclusion. We've got to go there and challenge ourselves and move on from the Bristol performance. This season's going to be about moving on. The teams that move on the most will be the teams that win it at the end.
We're at the halfway stage of the Premiership. What's your sort of half-term report?
I'm okay about it. I mean, it was always going to be a challenge at the start of the season. We knew that. We knew the number of back five forwards who were having operations. We knew the guys who were going to be away on Lions rest. We knew it was going to be a slightly broken up. That happened, and the thing that probably makes everything look a little bit less uncomfortable was probably those two very narrow losses to Northampton and Newcastle at home. If you flip those over and put them wins, we look in a very comfortable position for a team that went through those challenges around unavailabilities. People go almost be doing the opposite. They go, well, it shows the strength of the Chiefs squad because they've weathered all that, and look where they are. They're top four, and I feel like we're playing better, and we've got a lot to come. I know we're playing better, and I know there's more to come from us because we're not peak performing yet. But I do feel that we'll get some of that in the future. So overall, I'm pretty comfortable. The challenge is there's quite a few teams around us playing well and feeling comfortable, and we're in a position where the league is so tight that every round you can go up or down a couple of positions, and everybody knows we're a team we want to be in the top four. We want to be challenging later in the season, so that puts a little bit of pressure on ourselves to perform a bit more regularly and a bit more consistently.